Hello drivers, and welcome to the Transport America Summer Safe Driving Series, the next level safe driving. Let's step it up. We're going to cover the 4 critical crashes: rear end, lane change, run under, and loss of control, as well as we're going to touch on the new hours of service. I thank you for your time and attention to this important training. I'm Field Support Specialist Mike Cozy, here to guide you through the training. Now, let's get started. Making smart decisions. Making smart decisions will help us to avoid becoming a statistic or, worse, being injured or injuring someone else. Also, it will help us to improve space and visibility management. Now, what does that mean, making smart decisions? Well, it means exactly what it sounds like. It means always keeping the proper 7-second following distance. It means always doing a lean and look when you're changing lanes. That's what smart decisions are. It makes you the professional. It makes you above and beyond the rest of the drivers that are out there. The goals of training. The goals of this training, drivers, is to improve our driving skills by discussing how to anticipate and react to the moves of other drivers and make smart driving decisions to keep us out of harm's way. Next level, safe driving will prevent critical crashes. As we discussed earlier, we're going to review in detail the 4 critical crashes. They include rear end collision, a lane change collision, a run under, and a loss of control / rollover. Let's start with a rear end collision. Now, what causes a rear end collision? Well, as we all know, one of the major reasons for that is improper following distance or following too close. Industry standard is 6 seconds of following distance. Transport America's minimum is 7 seconds. At 6 seconds, drivers, at highway speeds of 65 miles per hour, you are traveling at 97.4 feet per second. Rounding that up, that's 100 feet per second. So trying to figure out the proper following distance just by looking, by eyeballing it, probably is not going to happen. You do have to count. By picking a stationary object that is in front of you, when the vehicle that you are following passes that object, you begin to count. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and so on. When you get to 7 seconds, you should then be passing that object. If you are passing it before you get to 7 seconds, you are following too close. Remember, it is vital that you keep the proper following distance. This is one accident that normally someone is going to get hurt or killed in this type of an accident. Next, drivers, let's talk about the proper speed for conditions. Just because the speed limit is 65 and you're doing 65, but there's a tumultuous downpour happening at the same time, that is not the proper speed for conditions. And that's what you need to be aware of, the proper speed for conditions. Make sure that you're not going faster than you need to be going because of the bad weather, or because there's fog out there, or any number of reasons. Again, the speed limit doesn't necessarily mean that's how fast you have to go. Next on our list is inattention, being attentive to the road ahead. You must pay attention 100% of the time while you're driving. This is not a 50% type of an occupation. You have to pay attention all the time because things will change in an instant. If you've got the proper following distance and the vehicle in front of you starts to stop, you see their brake lights come on, but you're not being attentive to the road ahead, you're going to crawl right up on top of them. So be attentive 100% of the time. Distractions. Avoid all distractions. One of the major distractions out there is using a handheld device. Now, you may know that DOT has a fine for using a handheld device or a cell phone that will cost you $2,750. That's not a negotiable fine. That's what it's going to cost you, $2,750. Now, if I had an extra $2,750 laying around, I'd go to a big box store and I'm coming out with a pretty good sized TV. If I have to give it to the state in the form of a fine, I'm coming out with a receipt. So guys, understand, remember that you must pay attention. No distractions. The policy here at Transport America is no cell phones, period, at all. Not with a Bluetooth, not with a headset, not with an ear clip. No cell phones while you are driving, period. It will help you to remain attentive to the road ahead. Last on our list of rear-end crash prevention techniques, drivers, is the improper reaction to hazards in the road. In other words, if the vehicle in front of you does stop, your reaction to that is to slow down and be prepared to stop. Your reaction should not be looking in your side mirrors to see if there's a way to get out of that. That takes up too much time. You can spend 2 to 3 seconds looking to see if someone is beside of you and find out that there's somebody there. You have wasted that cushion that you've prepared for yourself with that 7-second following distance. There is no guarantee that that spot is going to be open for you. Remember, the proper reaction to somebody stopping in front of you is for you to stop as well.
Now let's put these techniques to the test. As our professional drivers have stated, when it comes to protecting others on the road, it's all about making the right decisions. As we approach merging traffic, we're paying close attention to the various hazards developing ahead. We have our 6-second following interval: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're not surprised as this pickup suddenly cuts in front of us and brakes. Since we had the proper following interval and we're running a little slower than traffic, this presents no problem. Notice how we regain our following interval in a few seconds. There we have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're counting the seconds using the lines that separate the lanes as our stationary object. Right now that's the only stationary object available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Traffic is nearly stopped in the lane to our left, yet we're still moving. If any of these vehicles to the left of us pulls into our lane, there will be plenty of space ahead of them, so it's less likely that they will pull into our lane and have to brake sharply. If other vehicles are pulling in close to the front of you and suddenly braking, you're more than likely following too close, and you are actually causing the hazard. This is the physics of going a little slower than the flow, working to help prevent rear-end crashes. Although we can check our mirrors anytime, it must be a quick glance. The greatest hazards involving our truck and other traffic are ahead of us, not behind or to the side. Here's a van cutting us off, but there's plenty of space ahead of it. We expect the van to immediately start to pull away from us, but we're also prepared to slow or brake if for any reason it does not pull away. There, it's pulling away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the beauty of going a little slower than the flow. Traffic is again slowing and we're paying close attention to what's going on ahead. There's no time for any distraction, not even mirror checks. Our 2 lanes are now about to pick up a 3rd lane merging from the right. Although we've been running in the right lane, we're going to stay in our lane, which is about to become the center lane. We've decided to follow our professional's advice to pick a lane and stay in it until it's necessary for us to change lanes. Notice that even as traffic has picked up the speed, we continue to run a little slower than the flow. There's plenty of space ahead of us, so if traffic slows or stops in our lane, we're not even considering moving left or right. We also know there's traffic beside us in both adjacent lanes. It can take a heavy truck 6 seconds or more to completely change lanes, whereas cars can change lanes in less than 2 seconds. We're focusing on what's developing ahead, and if it's a hazardous situation, we're going to immediately get the speed down and get prepared to stop if necessary. Some drivers have posed the question, by going slower than the flow of traffic, aren't we setting up the hazard that someone might rear-end us? At one of our value-driven driving seminars, a driver who had previously been a police officer and was trained in accident investigation and reconstruction provided this observation. He brought up the subject of kinetic energy and how it impacts the severity of rear-end crashes. The comparison of the potential destructive energy between a heavy truck and a typical automobile served to get everyone's attention. According to our expert, an 80,000-pound truck generates over 11 million foot-pounds of kinetic energy at 65 miles per hour. A 3,000-pound automobile generates just a little over 400,000 foot-pounds at 65 miles per hour. The heavy truck produces 27 times the kinetic energy the automobile does at 65 miles per hour. Another way to look at this is that in order for the automobile to generate the same kinetic energy, it needed to be traveling at 335 miles per hour. So the conclusion is obvious. Rear-end crashes can be devastating, and particularly so when a heavy truck rear-ends an automobile. We just glanced in the left rearview mirror, and there's a heavy truck moving up in the lane to the left of us. There, as he passes, it's obvious the speed is greater than the flow of traffic. Look, a vehicle just cut into the truck's lane, but it continues to close the space. The count is 1, 2. That's 2 seconds at this speed. Less than 200 feet and still closing. If traffic in that lane suddenly stops, the result will probably be a rear-end crash. The situation is very different for us and for the motorists around us. As our professionals have stated, we're driving to protect others. Here's another example. A small car is cutting in front of us with plenty of room. The cut-in is at about 2 seconds, and look, it's rapidly pulling away, allowing us to automatically regain our 6-second following interval. One last thought about rear-end crashes. You often hear truck drivers complaining about vehicles cutting close in front of them and braking. Remember one of our core values we discussed at our seminars, honesty. Let's be absolutely honest. If you find that vehicles are cutting you off short and braking, it's probably occurring because you're following too close. Exactly like that semi-unit that just passed us. It's simply a matter of deciding to do what is right and implementing it with discipline, dedication, and determination. We just illustrated how utilizing proper following distance works, and it turns out to be easily achievable and a rather pleasant experience. A quick calculation indicates that in these few minutes of driving, we maintained 6 or more seconds of following interval approximately 92% of the time. This concludes our rear-end crash prevention exercise, and all we did was practice what our professional drivers recommended. Keep a 6-second following distance, keep speed a little slower than the flow of traffic, be attentive to the road ahead, avoid all distractions, and react properly to hazards. If traffic stops ahead, prepare to stop.
Welcome back, drivers. Let's talk now about a lane change collision and what causes a lane change collision. First, failing to yield the right of way at a ramp. Now, if you see someone coming down the ramp on the freeway, adjust your speed. Let the other guy win. Actually, it's not a race. More than likely, you're bigger than he is anyhow. If you can do it safely, check your mirrors and change lanes and yield the right of way to the folks coming down from the ramp. Second, frequent lane changes. Let me pose a question to you. Is it a good idea to make a lot of lane changes? No, of course not. Maintain your lane is the best way to do it. Making a lot of lane changes opens yourself up to having a lane change accident. Here's a thought. If you pick a lane and stay in it, can you be the cause of a lane change collision? And the answer, of course, is no. And last but certainly not least are the blind spots. If you're in the center lane and you need to make a lane change to the right, say the exit that you need is coming up in a few miles, and you want to get over to your right, how do you do that safely? Well, you take a direct look. It's called the lean and look method. It's where you sit up in your seat and you lean over to the right and you just take a look. Most of the good drivers, it has been my experience to tell you, are already doing this. They may not be able to tell you that they're doing it, but they're doing it. It takes all of a second to look over and see if someone's there. If you've ever seen a lane change collision, it is not a pretty sight. A lot of times it ends up as a fatality. Now, is it worth a second of your time to avoid that type of accident? And of course the answer is yes. You're the professional. You do the right things to avoid accidents.
Changing lanes in multi-lane traffic with a tractor-trailer truck is a potentially hazardous maneuver. Our professionals agreed that keeping track of all other traffic around our truck each second is near impossible. And everyone agreed that all have been surprised from time to time. That's why one of the Essential 7 recommendations, maintain one lane, is so important. As our drivers discussed the hazards presented with a lane change, it soon became clear that one particular position presents the greatest hazard. As shown in this diagram, it is position 6, the right front corner. The driver of the truck may not be able to see the vehicle in the mirrors, and because the vehicle is slightly ahead of the truck, the driver of the vehicle may not see the truck. When contact occurs between the truck and the vehicle spins out in front of the truck. We took this to the road to see what it looks like from inside the truck. A car is moving up along the right side of the truck, heading for the right front corner blind spot. Looks like we're there. Let's take a look from the truck cab. We're catching a good view of the vehicle in the first elliptical mirror. As the vehicle moves up, it disappears from the first mirror and begins to be visible in the second mirror. As the vehicle continues to move forward, it disappears from the second mirror and becomes visible in the fender-mounted mirror. It moves up a bit more and disappears from the fender-mounted mirror. It is now in the right front corner blind spot. Our driver does not see the auto in any of the mirrors. However, it is easy to spot the auto with a slight lean up and look down to the right. In order to properly use the lean and look method, it is vital that your seat is properly adjusted to clearly see vehicles ahead or on sides. Riding with the seat adjusted low could put you and others in a dangerous situation. What's so attractive about not being able to see properly?
All right, drivers, now let's talk about a run-under collision. First, what is the cause of a run-under crash? Well, the biggest thing is it is a failure to yield the right-of-way. Now, let me ask you this. When is it okay for you in a commercial motor vehicle to make a U-turn? Well, if you answered never, you would be correct. It is never legal for you to make a U-turn, even if there is a sign stating that U-turns are okay. That is for the motorist. That does not apply to you in your rig and trailer. Yielding the right-of-way is always the best course of action, especially in a case like this. Don't block the travel lanes. And again, no U-turns. Also, improper reaction to hazards. You must learn to calculate properly the time and distance to clear an intersection, and that's going to be 15 to 20 seconds. In other words, if you are at an intersection and you have to make a left turn, the vehicles coming at you must be 15 to 20 seconds away minimum so that you can complete that turn. It will take you about that long from a dead stop, fully loaded, to complete the turn. Now, what happens if you have to back into the dock from the street? Let's make it nighttime. How are you going to do that safely? Well, there is only one safe method of doing that, and that is to call law enforcement, have them come out and block the traffic. Now, some of you would say, well, I'll just get the guy driving the forklift to come out and he can stop the traffic. Well, actually he can't. And besides, if the traffic bypasses him and still runs under your trailer, who do you think is going to have to answer for that? Now, you call the local police department, you explain to them where you're at, what you need, and ask them to send a unit out for traffic control. And they will do it. The debate that I hear all too often is that, well, they just won't come out. Well, let somebody run under your trailer and see if they show up. Drivers, they would much rather come out before the fact. They would much rather come out and stop traffic than to be there and help scrape bodies off the asphalt. So remember, a run-under collision can always be avoided. Make sure that you do not block the travel portion of the roads. And if you're in a situation where that looks like what you must do, stop and think and get help.
Another significant discovery made at the value-driven driving seminars was the time it takes for a fully loaded tractor-trailer to pull off and/or pull out from a stopped position. Drivers who had actually timed the maneuver claimed it was consistently 15 to 20 seconds. Others estimated it should take 5 to 10 seconds. To settle the difference, let's find out what this truck's pull-off time is. Okay, we're all set up here to make a left turn. We're stopped and waiting for oncoming traffic to clear so we can time the maneuver. As we look at oncoming traffic, we've determined that it is taking about 7 seconds for traffic to reach the intersection from the time we first see it as it comes around a blind curve. So if it takes just under 7 seconds for us to complete a pullout, we should be able to clear the lanes before traffic reaches that point. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, we have it off the stopwatch. It was right at 16 seconds to completely clear both lanes. As our drivers pointed out, with this confirmed, we have an easy method to determine whether or not we have adequate time to safely make a left turn. Since traffic is reaching the intersection from when we first see it approaching in 7 seconds, this is not a safe place. The line of view to oncoming traffic is not adequate. If this is a place we regularly travel, we should report this to the safety department so they can contact local officials to install some traffic control at this intersection. This is what a run-under crash looks like from inside an oncoming auto. We're rounding a sharp curve, and as we straighten out, the truck is visible. A couple of seconds pass for perception. Whoa, what's that? Hit the brakes, we're skidding! Obviously, the previous shots were a reenactment. Even though the view from the auto appeared to provide adequate time to stop the car before impact, we're depicting this as if the auto driver was inattentive and/or distracted. We're stopped and are about to turn left at the base of this hill. Watch as an oncoming vehicle tops the hill directly in front of us. Let's count the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It took about 9 seconds for that vehicle to reach the intersection. With a 17-second pull-off time, it is not safe to pull off in front of oncoming traffic at this intersection. Remember, if this is a place we normally operate, we should report the hazard to our safety department so they can contact the local authorities and work with them to install some traffic control. There, that will help. We've installed a stop sign at the base of the hill. During the value-driven driving seminars, it was noted that run-under crashes frequently occur at night. The question arose about what role elements of physics and human physiology played in this phenomenon. Our discussions led us to photograph this nighttime exercise involving trailer conspicuity. Conspicuity means just how conspicuous or easy to see a trailer is when it's blocking a travel lane at night. The first view is a daytime shot of the tractor-trailer in a potential run-under crash position. Here's the same view at night. We can see the tractor, but where is the trailer? This is a marker light midway down the side of the trailer. What might it appear to be to an oncoming motorist? How far away is that light? 200 feet? 500 feet? A quarter of a mile? And what are these lights? Could this appear to be an oncoming truck completely in the proper lane? It was suggested that the truck's headlamps shining in the eyes of the oncoming motorist may be preventing them from seeing the trailer. Here is the view with the headlamps turned off. The trailer is easier to see. Our drivers cautioned that no one is suggesting that we drive with our headlights off at night. But in an emergency situation such as this, if any oncoming vehicle is not slowing down, the last chance warning would be to turn the headlamps off for a second or two in hopes that the blinding effect of the headlamps would be quickly eliminated and the trailer would be easier to see. Our drivers were quick to point out that the first recommendation is to not get into this emergency situation in the first place. Backing in at night, off of a traveled road, looks like this. The trailer is difficult to see and may take 30 or more seconds to clear the roadway. It was recommended that backing in at night should be avoided, unless we have proper traffic control in place. If a customer is insistent about this issue, please call your carrier so they can work with the customer to eliminate this hazard.
All right, drivers, we come to the last of the critical crashes, loss of control. It actually encompasses 3 types of accidents: a jackknife, a rollover, and a head-on collision. So let's start first with the cause of most loss of control accidents. That would be fatigue, not being fully aware and having all of your attention where it needs to be. The prevention, of course, is to get 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Another cause would be distractions. Avoid all distractions. Number 1 being the use of a handheld device or a cell phone. Now, DOT has a non-negotiable fine if you are caught using a handheld device. That fine is $2,750. Another cause of a loss of control is the improper reaction to a hazard. Loss of control prevention techniques. Loss of traction. If you're going down the highway, and let's say it's wintertime, and you cross that bridge and you hit that patch of ice and your drive wheels start to spin, your tach buries itself, you have no traction. What is the first thing that you want to do? Well, let's talk about what you don't do. You don't step on the brakes because you're going to do anything but stop. Taking your foot off the throttle pretty much does the same thing. Taking your foot off the throttle, because of the torque of the engine, is going to slow down those drive wheels and going to cause you to go out of control. The first thing that you want to do, drivers, is to disengage the clutch. Disengaging the clutch will give you what's known as rolling traction. Your vehicle is going to go in the direction that the momentum takes it. Now, it's got to be the first thing that you think of. If you're already bent in half and then you try it, it's probably not going to help you much. Second thing, a wheel drop off. If you're going down the highway and you find you have dropped off onto the shoulder and there is a significant drop off, the first thing to do is slow down and gently steer back to the hard surface. Worst case scenario, if you can't do that, you stop. It's a whole lot easier to bring the hook to get you out of a situation like that if the wheels are still on the ground rather than up in the air. Down slopes, off-road, turn slowly if it's there to the level ground. Again, making the best of a bad situation. In a curve, enter the curve slowly and apply power coming out. Remember, the posted speed limit at a curve is for the motorist. It does not apply to a big rig. Your speed going into a curve should be 10 to 15 miles slower than that posted speed.
A common cause of loss of control and ultimately a rollover is taking a curve too fast. In our value-driven driving discussions, professional drivers pointed out that braking in a curve increases centrifugal force, that is, the force that is pushing us to the outside. It's this force that can take us off the road and/or roll us over. We're going to take this curve just a bit faster than we should, and then we're going to brake and see if we can feel the increase in centrifugal force. As we brake, we can definitely feel the push to the outside of the curve. This is what could happen when driving too fast and braking in a curve. Now we're going into a curve slowly enough so that we can accelerate slightly as we leave the curve. We're more than halfway through, and we're adding a little power. You can definitely feel the stability. Our professional drivers knew exactly what they were talking about. Here we are on a 2-lane road. We're going to drop a wheel off on the shoulder. This has probably happened to everyone at one time or another. Our drivers pointed out that if you drop a wheel, the instinctive thing to do is to jerk it back onto the road. But you must be prepared to resist that. Instead of jerking it, get a good grip on the steering wheel, slow down, and ease your truck back onto the road. This drop-off definitely got our attention, but we handled it well. Keep in mind, not all drop-offs are as gentle as this one. Nonetheless, the main thing is not to panic, and don't overreact. Professional drivers realize that often our first instinctive reaction to being off the road and on the shoulder can be disastrous. We can only imagine why we're going off the road here, but the fact is, we are. We're on the slope, and our instincts are screaming for us to get back on the road. Turn left, turn left! But if we do that, we're going to roll over. Instead, we turn right, onto the level surface on this ditch. There, that's better. Now let's stop and take a deep breath. If you're off the road, it's not so bad if you're off and upright. While we're on this 2-lane road, it's also a good time to think about the advice offered by our professionals on what to do if an oncoming vehicle crossed into our lane. Never steer to the left. Always apply controlled braking and move to the right. If the oncoming motorist realizes they're in our lane, they will instinctively pull it back to their lane. If that happens, we do not want to be in their lane. Let's put that advice to the test. Everything seems normal here. A couple of oncoming vehicles. Uh-oh, what's going on? Move right, move right. Keep the braking under control. Wow, that was close. Imagine if we would have gone left. Never go left. Never go left. And one last consideration. If we should suddenly lose traction with the drive wheels, the best chance of recovering and preventing an out-of-control jackknife is to immediately disengage the clutch and counter-steer. Our professional drivers pointed out that the sliding or spinning wheel will lead. It's one of those natural laws, a law of physics. We need to regain rolling traction as quickly as possible, and freewheeling drive wheels give us the chance to accomplish that. Let's observe our professionals' conclusions about the physics of loss of traction in a live skid pad test. Notice as the trailer tandem brakes are activated, the wheels lose traction and immediately the trailer skids to the right. Proof that the sliding wheel will lead. Next, as the brakes are released, the wheels begin to roll freely and traction is regained. Now we'll test the effect of the drive wheels losing traction in a spin-out. As the drivers spin out, they're trying to lead. The truck is in a jackknife. As we disengage the clutch, the drivers begin to roll freely, and the truck straightens out and recovers from the jackknife. In this test, we have lost traction in a spin-out, and our reaction was to get off the accelerator but not to disengage the clutch. Notice the drag of the driveline and engine torque is causing the drive wheels to skid. See, they are not turning. Now we disengage the clutch. The drive wheels suddenly begin to turn at the same speed as the steer wheels, and the truck straightens out and recovers from the jackknife. Get free rolling traction by disengaging the clutch. That's the secret of loss of traction skid recovery. Once again, our professional drivers were absolutely right about this recommendation.
Expect the expected. What does that mean? Predict others will make bad decisions that could lead to an accident. Accident avoidance formula. Visibility for the driver. It enables the driver to gather important traffic information. Space for the vehicle. Time to react to yours or other drivers' mistakes. Time to make smart decisions. That's critical with big trucks. Why? Not every driver is a professional. You have to drive not only for yourself, but for all the other drivers on the road. Over 100 million collisions throughout the world are reported daily. Being accident-free is our core value. Accident avoidance. There are 5 steps to help you avoid an accident. They are search, identify, predict, Decide on an action and execute. Let's explore each one. Search. That means you're going to look ahead to your driving future. 1 block in town, half a mile on rural roads or freeways. 12 to 15 seconds ahead in the center of your lane, well ahead in gradual curves. Check the front, rear, and both sides. Look and lean to the right front. Move your eyes every 2 seconds. Check a mirror every 5 to 8 seconds. Remember, mirror checks are just glances. Any look away is not greater than 1 second. Develop a scanning pattern and avoid distractions at all costs. Identify. Where is the threat? Is it in front or behind? Maybe it's to the sides. Is it on the ramp or at an intersection? Above or below? In the parking lot? Or maybe it's me. Predict. Expect the expected. That green light you're coming upon, it's going to change. That's what's known as a stale green light. If you don't know how long it's been green, expect that it's going to change and begin to slow down. Predict that that vehicle ahead is going to stop. Be prepared for it. That car will pull out in front of me. There's a car in my blind spot. At on-ramps, others want to be first. Well, let them be first. Predict that others will not slow down for me. Predict that someone is behind me. And predict that the road is slicker than I think. Decide on an action. Remember, in many cases, your only action is to slow or stop. Increase your following distance. Remember, drivers, our minimum following distance is 7 seconds. Drive 2 to 3 miles per hour less than the flow of traffic. Do you know how fast 2 to 3 miles an hour is? It's how fast you walk your dog. Is that going to make a big difference at the end of the day? Brake lights ahead, off the power. Prepare to stop. Get on the brakes, don't wait. Decide on an action. I need to slow down. Know your time to clear an intersection. Lean and look. Yield to others. It's okay to be second. Drive in the lane of least resistance, then maintain that lane. Use your horn to alert others. Commentary driving. Commentary driving forces you to identify hazards. Living it when you leave. In other words, drivers, talk to yourself as you're going down the highway. I see that vehicle in the shopping center. They're probably going to pull out on me. Or I see mom in the minivan turning around to yell at the kids in the car. Is she really paying attention to her driving? Commentary driving. Sometimes it's the only intelligent conversation you're going to have. So use it to your benefit. Remember, drivers, expect the expected. The professional creates space. Others fill it. Not everyone is a professional, but everyone could be if they wanted to be. Our drivers must be. Hours of service changes. What's new? Limitations on the 34-hour restarts and mandatory rest breaks. Drivers, here's the new regulation on the 34-hour restart. You now have to encompass 2 rest periods between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. before your restart will become effective. Meaning that if you take your restart between 7 p.m. and 1 a.m., there will be no changes. 34 hours later, you're ready to go. But if you take your break and it starts after 1 a.m., then you're looking at 48 to 50 hours before your restart is effective. You must encompass 2 periods, 2 complete uninterrupted periods between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Your Qualcomm will do the work for you. You've got to watch it closely. Rest breaks. You may drive only if 8 hours or less have passed since the end of your last off-duty period, and that rest break must be at least 30 minutes. If you have been on duty for 8 hours since your 14-hour clock started, you must take a 30-minute break before driving or continuing to drive. Meal breaks and or other off-duty time of at least 30 minutes qualifies as a break. And this includes the 100 air mile radius drivers. Only exclusions is for drivers carrying Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives. In-attendance time may be included in the break if no other duties are performed. Drivers, this concludes this summer training video. I want to take the time to thank you for taking the time to watch this video and to learn with us, to be the best that we can be. Remember, every vehicle that passes you out there has somebody's family in it. My family's out there as well. I don't want you to run over my family, and I know you don't want anybody to run over yours. So be the best you can be. Keep good, proper following distance. Get plenty of sleep. Don't drive distracted. Be careful out there.